Watch how the third quarter goes down. At least they called this one. Asia Wilson creams Lexie Hall like she did 5 times in game 1. Peggy Hammock get 15 calls in a row and one goes another way and she starts screaming and crying. Asia Wilson doesn't like Lexie Hall. She's always pushing her, but that's an illegal screen, and then Lexie Hall gets called for a foul.
The Indiana Fever just watched game 2 totally slip away, and honestly, it wasn't because they were outmatched. It felt like the refs practically handed that game to the Las Vegas Aces. Seriously, 41 fouls in total, with 16 of those coming in just 1 quarter alone, and players were getting thrown to the ground constantly. And get this, Asia Wilson still walked away with praise for her stat line, while Lexie Hall was playing through a back injury she got in game 1. This really wasn't basketball, it was just chaos dressed up as defense. It makes you wonder, how did the Fever even manage to fight back through all of that? And what does it mean for them heading back to Indiana? You gotta comment, let's go Lexie, and show some support.
I mean, it feels like a physical game every game. Feels like it's been a physical season. But yes, I think, I feel like I've been on the ground a little bit more this series so far. But we just keep getting back up, so that's all you can really say.
But first, let's think about game 1. How in the world did Indiana walk into Las Vegas, face the 2-time champs, deal with whistles already leaning the wrong way, and still walk out with a double-digit win? That first game wasn't just a victory, it put the entire league on notice. The Fever went into that opener with a calm, disciplined approach you just don't typically see from a young team. And right away, Kelsey Mitchell absolutely silenced any doubts, lighting up the scoreboard with a playoff career-high 34 points. Every time Vegas tried to press, Indiana pushed right back. Not with a lot of flash, but with pure control, just refusing to let that tempo get out of their hand.
Yeah. Take that. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's one. That's one. That's one. Yeah. Fever dog. No. They ain't song and dance to me, man. I'm just regular, man. I love basketball. I love playing with my team. So let's take what we can get.
And then there was Asia Wilson, right? She's supposed to be the Aces trump card, the MVP, but she had a nightmare shooting night. I mean, 6 makes on 22 attempts? Just 6. Indiana's defense was just relentless, forcing her into tough looks, contesting literally everything near the rim. They made sure she had to work for every single bucket she got. That was the whole story of game 1, one team executing with surgical precision, hardly fouling, while the powerhouse Aces couldn't buy a rhythm on their own home court.
Asia Wilson, look at that foul they called for her. Yeah, saved her. That's some bullcrap. I love Aaliyah Boston. Great job today playing defense. Look at that. Another foul. Bailed out by the refs. I get pissed off. This is the worst one. They call this a jump ball. How is that a jump ball? Nobody even had possession. Aaliyah Boston, that's anything that's over the back. Not a jump ball.
What's crazy is what made that game 1 loss sting even more for Vegas, right? They were at home, the whistle was already leaning their way, and the national coverage was basically predicting an easy series win for them. Instead, the Fever held their ground and walked out with a 16-point blowout. Fans immediately started noticing cracks. That foul count felt off even in their victory. But honestly, the sheer size of Indiana's win really buried a lot of those complaints. Still, that underlying feeling of bias wasn't completely ignored. It just kind of got brushed aside because the Fever handled their business no matter what.
And Asia Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces lose game 1 on their home court to the Indiana Fever, 89-73. The Indiana Fever were in control of this game from start to finish.
Now that embarrassment from game 1 definitely fueled the Aces. A 16-point loss at home, that's not something they could just excuse away. And that's exactly why they stormed into game 2, absolutely determined to change the tone. The question wasn't if Vegas would respond, it was more about how far they'd actually go. But you have to ask, at what cost did the Aces decide to fight back? Was game 2 even real basketball? Or was it just a brawl that the referees tried to dress up as playoff intensity? From the very first minutes, it was super clear the Aces were not interested in playing clean.
In the WNBA, you cannot blindside somebody and set a screen on them without enough time for letting the player being screened react. And then look at this. This one, their arms lock up, but you gotta let go at some point. Like, you can't bring the person closer to you and just stay locked in while the offensive player is trying to get the rebound. But we know A'ja Wilson only receives fouls.
And they came out just throwing arms, bodies colliding on literally every single possession. The officials, they never really established any control. What should have been this awesome back and forth showcase for two great teams just turned into 41 fouls, and that whistle never stopped cutting through the arena. Think about it. 16 of those fouls came in just the third quarter alone. That was a stretch where Indiana had absolutely no chance to find any rhythm. Every single attempt they made at building momentum got chopped into pieces by stoppages that just seemed to consistently favor one team.
Seth, why don't you think you were able to find any flow, and when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. You know, and when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. And you know, we didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
On top of that, the physicality wasn't just occasional, it literally was the entire storyline of the game. Players were getting shoved when cutting through the lane, defenders were using forearms instead of actual footwork, and more than once, someone ended up sprawled out on the floor. What really stood out wasn't just the sheer number of fouls, but how completely they broke the Fever's pace. This is a group that absolutely thrives in flow. They run and they share the ball so well, and instead they were dragged into a wrestling match they absolutely didn't ask for. So while Vegas was piling up free throws, Indiana was just forced into these choppy half-court sets, which is honestly the least comfortable part of their identity.
Yeah, Lexie, obviously you were a late add to the injury report today. Just how are you feeling this morning with your back, and what do you have to do to be able to play?
I mean, I'm feeling sore still, but I think just a lot of treatment, trying to get, you know, our bodies as ready as we can be. Part of playoffs, I think, for everyone is it's the end of the season. Everyone's a little fatigued, everyone's a little sore. So just trying to go out there and do the best I can. Yeah, a lot of treatment with our trainers. I'm really thankful for them to spend a lot of time with me today, a lot of time with me yesterday, getting me ready for tonight.
And get this, Lexie Hall should never have even been out there playing. After injuring her back in Game 1, she was just listed as a game-time decision. Most players would probably sit heel up and wait for the series to shift home. Instead, she taped herself up, hit the floor, and immediately got targeted by Vegas's super rough style. You literally saw it happening in real time. Contact after contact, bump after bump, with her landing on the hardwood more than once. Yet, against all of that, Hall went to the arc and drilled 5 3-pointers, tying a Fever playoff record. It wasn't clean, it wasn't pretty, but it was absolutely defiant. After the game, she even admitted, "I'm feeling sore still, but I think just a lot of treatment trying to get, you know, our bodies as ready as we can be. We're just pushing through." That's not some highlight reel quote. That's a player who knows she's being punished, but just refuses to fold.
This is what happened. They cut it to 8 and they get 4 fouls in a row. That was not a foul. That was not a foul. This is crazy. 4 consecutive fouls. So from 8, it goes to 13 really quick, and the rest was history. It looks like Howard got hit in the arm by 2 players. They don't call foul. It was a shot clock. But the rest of the game were just a whole bunch of fouls being called, people flying.
Meanwhile, the national conversation didn't really focus on Lexie Hall's incredible grit or the Fever just trying to keep their season alive. Nope, it just celebrated A'ja Wilson's stats: 25 points, 9 boards, 5 steals, 2 blocks. Those were the numbers repeated everywhere, constantly. But what got totally ignored was how she actually accumulated those numbers, bullying her way into the paint, knocking people around, and benefiting from calls that Indiana just never seemed to get on the other end. Fans watching definitely called it out, yet the headlines still framed her night as dominant. But look, dominant isn't the same as fair when half the opposing starters are literally limping away from the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's how you look at it. It looks, honestly, by some of the fouls and the way it was going, it looks like we were almost too physical, but yet at the same time, I feel like we have to be able to get that on the other end. I think, you know, sometimes when you just look at the game as a whole, when you look at the way that it works, sometimes you manipulate it to different ways and you have smaller matchups. So, I mean, I just don't think it's really possible all the time for some of those smaller matchups to really do such a clean job of that. But hey, I'm here to hoop, so none of my business.
And Aaliyah Boston lived that reality possession after possession. She put up 10 points and pulled down 13 rebounds. But honestly, it felt like every single one of those came with a hit to the ribs or a shove to the back. Paint touches that should have clearly resulted in free throws just turned into no calls. What people sometimes forget is that Boston is only in her 3rd season, but she's already carrying herself like a total veteran out there. Against the Aces, she wasn't given an inch, and instead of complaining, she just fought for every single board. It made her box score look steady, but the truth is, it was survival basketball just to tally those numbers.
She-Hulk kept her out of that space as much as she would have wanted to. She did end up with 19 points.
7-0. Aces run has been stopped. Sims in.
Plus, while the spotlight was on all the big star names, Odyssey Sims actually gave Indiana a chance to even breathe. She dropped 18 points. And this is a player who was constantly trying to dribble through double teams, hacks at her arms, and whistles that would just randomly stop any flow she managed to find. Sims turned what felt like half-broken possessions into actual baskets, only to watch the very next trip down the court get erased by yet another stoppage. You could literally see her frustration growing, but she never once slowed down. For every single push Vegas delivered, Sims just shot right back with buckets.
Purcell Young. Sims over. Asia Wilson, she had to put some extra arc on.
So, the story of Game 2 really isn't that Indiana failed, it's that they just weren't allowed to play their game. The grit was absolutely there in Lexie Hall's threes, in Aaliyah Boston's boards, and Sims's drives. But every single surge they made just got stomped out by a whistle or a shove. The Aces didn't expose holes in Indiana's strategy at all. They just leaned on foul-heavy chaos and rode that to victory. If you're asking how the Fever lost that game, the answer isn't who played better. It's pretty obvious that without all those interruptions, Indiana's poise and shooting could have totally swung things. But here's the thing, if Las Vegas needed help from both the whistles and brute physicality, what actually changed in their tactics to force Kelsey Mitchell out of the spotlight? I mean, if the refs were going to tilt Game 2 in the Aces' direction, then how did their actual game plan change to shut Kelsey Mitchell down so completely? That was really the other half of what made Game 2 different. In Game 1, she just absolutely torched Las Vegas for 34 points, scoring in every way imaginable, catch and shoot off the dribble, attacking the rim. But by the second game, she was totally smothered. Her total dropped to 13, and it wasn't because she suddenly forgot how to score. The Aces came in with one clear goal, squeeze her until there was zero space left to operate.
Step on that note with Kelsey just having a little bit of a, they were able to contain her a little bit more. How did you feel like they were able to be successful in that regard?
I mean, the physicality won. She's like a little pinball, I know that the museum's right down the street, so sometimes I feel like she's getting pinged around everywhere.
So they put extra bodies on her, sometimes face guarding her even when she didn't even have the ball. Every single cut she made turned into bruises, and every screen set for her was met with an aggressive hedge. That's exactly what changed the Fever's entire flow. Instead of letting Mitchell dictate the pace and stretch the defense, Las Vegas just forced the ball into different hands. Double teams funneled her passes into really crowded lanes, and by the time she broke free for a clean look, it was usually super late in the shot clock. It was a smart, disciplined change for sure, but one that honestly only looks a lot cleaner on tape than it actually felt in the game.
The physicality is out of control, that's for sure. I mean, you can bump and grab a wide receiver in the NFL for those first 5 yards, but you can do it in the W for the whole half court. You put two hands on somebody like that, it should be an automatic foul. They have the freedom of movement. Freedom of movement. There's no freedom. And I'm not saying that we're not fouling too. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's out of control.
What's crazy is, even Becky Hammon, the Aces' own coach, complained afterward about the physical nature of the matchup. Think about that for a second. The Aces had just been rewarded all night by a whistle that kept stopping and starting the game in their favor, yet their own coach wasn't thrilled with how rough it got. That detail really matters because it shows the result didn't just ride on a tactical plan. It was also shaped almost entirely by some super chaotic officiating decision. The Aces' pressure on Mitchell definitely worked, but all those distractions really clouded any fair measure of how effective those adjustments actually were. Inside, Aaliyah Boston still fought hard. She had 10 points and 13 rebounds. Another tough night where she played more like a linebacker, just crashing bodies than a center working out of the post. But Vegas did something clever here too. They stretched the floor. They pulled her out of position, which created mismatches that let A'ja Wilson and Jackie Young attack without any true counter on the help side.
Now the starting point guard, and here's Hull, an early test. Great sign because her shooting has been off. Yes. Mitchell. Short. Hull with another offensive rebound, turn, shoot, scores. 2 of their last 3. Hull again, yes. Oh,
You found it.
And then there's Lexie Hull again. The Aces may have succeeded in erasing Mitchell for one night, but they absolutely could not stop Hull. Remember, she had just injured her back in Game 1. She was a game-time decision, barely cleared to even take the floor. But not only did she suit up, she drilled 5 threes and tied a Fever playoff record. That's not a fluke, you guys. That's pure mental toughness, and it's the exact proof that Indiana just refuses to quit, even when they're undermanned.
Fever runs still. Lexie Hull has scored the last 6 points for Indiana with a couple of threes. Mitchell, good look. And she got it. Kelsey Mitchell in that first half had 9 points, but was just 1 of 5 from 3-point range. It was Lexie Hull doing the damage from 3, and now she's doing a Kelsey Mitchell imitation of the night.
So yes, Las Vegas made their adjustments, and they scored. They executed a plan, they leaned on the whistle, and they walked off with the win. But now, the board totally changes. The next time they play, it won't be in Vegas. It's in Indianapolis, where the Aces won't just face Mitchell, Boston, and Hull. They're gonna face 17,000 fans who smell blood and plan to be louder than any whistle. What happens when a team that's been roughed up, whistled out of rhythm, and nearly injured on the road finally gets to walk back into their own building? That's exactly what the Indiana Fever are about to find out as the series shifts to Gainbridge Fieldhouse. After 2 bruising games in Las Vegas, where the arena's energy and questionable whistles definitely tilted things toward the Aces, now the dynamic totally flips. The Fever finally get to step into a place that feels like theirs, where every bucket from Caitlin Clark or Kelsey Mitchell gets amplified by thousands of voices instead of drowned out.
If I could just ask you to look forward to this series going to your home court in Indianapolis, how much is that really going to make a difference in this series, and how much does it mean to you guys to have that home court advantage?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. Our fans, they show up and they show out, and so for us just using that, our own energy, but also using the energy in the crowd, I think it's going to be really great for us.
Listen, Gainbridge has already proven it's way more than just a home court. This season alone, we've seen opposing teams totally stumble in the second half as that noise level just keeps building and building. The same momentum swings that completely evaporated in Vegas, they come alive in Indy. There are 0 dead moments at Gainbridge. Crowds stay loud through runs, through fouls, through missed calls, everything. And while Vegas used their crowd energy to fuel their Game 2 victory, now it is absolutely Indiana's turn. Even Becky Hammon admitted, our experience there has not been great this season. And that says a lot coming from a championship coach, right? That matters because officiating bias just can't hide in silence when you've got 17,000 fans reacting to it in real time. Officials won't miss the contact on Boston's post-ups when the roar explodes at every bump. They won't ignore the body checks on Lexie Hull when that crowd demands accountability. That's the truly underrated part of home court. You don't just get the familiar rims and the familiarity of the building. You get constant pressure on every decision from the people watching closest.
Yeah, we're excited. I know the last time it was the first playoff game in a really long time, so to be able to have 2 more for our fans that have been there with us all season, really excited for that, and we definitely do feed off of their energy, so really looking forward to it.
So for the Fever, all of that, that's pure fuel. Lexie Hull toughed out back pain in Vegas, hitting 5 threes despite getting hacked and knocked around constantly. Aaliyah Boston collected rebound after rebound, while absorbing way more punishment than any whistles actually reflected, and Kelsey Mitchell was locked down after her Game 1 explosion, but you can just feel that frustration is going to turn into something sharper at home. This is exactly where battle scars stop weighing players down, and instead they become raw energy. We've actually seen this already this year. Remember, the Fever trailed by double digits at home, only to storm back once the atmosphere turned absolutely suffocating for the opponent. That same shift is why these next 2 games aren't just standard playoff stop. Games 3 and 4 in Indianapolis are the moment the Fever turn pain into power, and the Aces step into a building where every single mistake gets magnified, and every Fever run feels totally unstoppable. The Aces may have used whistles and bruises to steal Game 2, but Indiana's spirit never ever cracked. What happened in Las Vegas simply won't carry the same weight in Indianapolis. Home court is now the Fever's weapon. Loud, fearless, and absolutely impossible to ignore. Aaliyah Boston and Lexie Hull both admitted after the loss that they couldn't wait to get back in front of their fans. Hull said it best, "Our fans, they show up and they show out." If Indiana already dismantled Vegas once on the road and still fought through chaos in Game 2, just imagine what comes next with Gainbridge packed and ready. You absolutely have to comment "Let's go Lexie" to show your support.